Jarosz?
Here.
Mr. Croner?
Here.
Mrs. Muehlfeld?
Here.
Mrs. Randall?
Here.
Mrs. Weber?
Here.
Mr. Meyer?
Is excused.
Mrs. Fee?
Here. We begin our meetings with an opportunity for public comment on non-agenda items. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to make a comment on an item not on tonight's agenda, please come to the microphone and state your name and address prior to making your comment. Seeing none, we will move to approval of the consent agenda. Are there items on the consent agenda with which board members would like to remove for separate discussion or action? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Croner. Is there any board discussion of the consent agenda? Is there any community comment? Seeing none, Dr. Ertl, would you call the roll?
Mr. Jarosz?
Yes.
Mr. Croner?
Yes.
Mrs. Muehlfeld?
Yes.
Mrs. Randall?
Yes.
Mrs. Weber?
Yes.
Mrs. Fee?
Yes. That brings us to our action item for this evening under Student Services. Mrs. Randall, would you please read the motion?
It is recommended that the school board, approve the following for determining space available for the 2013-14 school year for Chapter 220 and open enrollment as presented and discussed at the November 5th meeting. A, no seats available for new students through the Chapter 220 program. B, use a maximum class size of 18 students per class at K4 and K5 and 20 at grades 1 through 5. C, use a maximum class size of 23 in the core academic subjects at the secondary level, grades 6 through 12. D, admit continuing students, those currently on tuition waivers, outside the space availability determined using the class size guidelines of 18, 20, or 23 as stated above. E, maintain the current practice of accepting siblings of current students within available space determinations. Sibling applicants receive statutory preference in the lottery process. F, determination for space available in special education for new open enrollment students will establish a caseload of 1 to 5 for special education teachers and 1 to 15 for speech and language pathologists assigned to a building. And I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Is there any board comment? Mrs. Kwiatkowski, did you wish to add anything to your presentation of last meeting? No. Is there any community comment?
Mrs. Fee, if I can just add
Yes.
one thing. In the December meeting, I intend to bring forward a recommendation for a virtual charter school that will also have a recommendation for open enrollment seats. So I just want to put that out there so there'll be a further recommendation above and beyond what we're recommending here as well.
With that comment, is there any other board question or comment? Is there any community comment? Seeing none, Dr. Ertl, would you call the roll?
Mr. Jarosz?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Croner?
Yes.
Mrs. Muehlfeld?
Yes.
Mrs. Randall?
Yes.
Mrs. Weber?
Yes.
Mrs. Fee?
Yes. That brings us to the report section of the agenda. Dr. Ertl, I believe you have a report on the Long Range Plan Committee update, and perhaps Mrs. Wayne Scott will be helping.
Yes, we had last week an update meeting for the Long Range Plan, and just Laura is going to talk a little bit about what occurred at the meeting and some of the steps that we've taken to get to that point.
Okay. Good evening. I just wanted to bring with me my tattered and torn copy of the original long-range plan. As a reminder of back in 2006 and 2007, and you approved it in 2007, the long way we've come. This is 86 pages long, and we've only had 3 new amendments to it that we added in 2010, so I just wanted to give that as a reminder. At our meeting, we had 25 of the people who were invited from the 2010 Long Range Plan Committee, and we did have to add some new members because we've had staff change. It was a good meeting. We started with a presentation about all of the things we've accomplished in the plan so far. And we then talked with the group. We split up in 3 groups, and they each discussed 2 questions. One was what success has the long-range plan had on those committee members who were in that group? And they mentioned the things that I included on the report: professional learning communities, increased use of data, world language expansion, more opportunities to engage learners, choices with the Montessori school, positive behavioral interventions and supports, PBIS, building leadership teams, the now systematic review of curriculum, increased technology in the classrooms, and the increased partnerships, including EFW and other organizations. Then the groups discussed which initiatives did they feel would continue to be the most important over the next 2 years. And those included closing the gaps with the subgroups and for achievement, individualized learning, use of data, social and emotional emphasis, continue to improve student services model, sustain partnerships, increase diversity of the staff, teacher evaluations, use them to improve teaching, staff compensation, and connecting professional learning communities and data to Common Core initiatives. There were no new initiatives brought forth because we have so many initiatives going on that just taking care of these is a full-time job. So I thought it was a great discussion. The committee was glad they were brought back together, and I think right now the district staff needs to go back and analyze what was brought forward to make sure we're taking care of the things that they suggested were the most important for the next 2 years.
I think just part of the opportunity for the update meetings is kind of a reflection to say where were we and where are we at now. And I think there's a couple of key things that we're doing now that prior to our long-range plan in 2006 we weren't doing, and kind of were almost unheard of. One of them is having people from outside of the school district help us and guide us and use their expertise in our curriculum work and other areas as well. And that never really occurred. And now we're almost dependent upon other people to come in and help us. And we rely upon outside expertise to really help us with our efforts. Curriculum council. Curriculum council was something that was started another part of our curriculum process, and actually having a curriculum process that we do. It kind of becomes who we are and what we do, and in the past we weren't doing that. Professional learning communities, really didn't know what those were, and the early release time that was approved by the Board of Education that allows us to have teacher collaboration time. That went from when we initiated that, we had a number of people that were really not in favor of it from our staff, and now they're saying we need more time to collaborate, more time to work with data, more time to work to improve our instruction. The concept of alternative learning styles and how we meet those through charter schools and specialty programs. That was part of the discussion through the long-range planning process. Focusing on goals. Our district development plan. That really is nothing more than an offshoot of here's what we're doing this year from our long-range plan. The long-range plan was intended when we went in to be a tool for me as the superintendent to carry out the work and what does our community want, what does our school community want, and I think we've done a lot. And I know we said immediately when that book was first put together, we couldn't accomplish this book in 20 years, and it holds true. There's still a lot in there that we may never get to, but I think we've really refined what we've done and have done some really good things. And we're going to continue to use that planning process, and at some point in the near future, we're going to have to go through a more extensive planning process. It's just kind of the life cycle of long-range planning, and really take that critical look again. Here's where we're at. Where do we want to go 10 years down the road and do that? So I think it was a good opportunity to sometimes stop and smell the roses of things we have accomplished, and also recognize areas we need to continue to work on. So.
Thank you. Board members, are there any questions or comments? Mr. Croner?
I have a question. What is the relationship of these initiatives to the district development plan? Does what was talked about at this meeting going to mean there's going to be a change in the district development plan, or is everything here a subset of those goals?
I think the discussion from the meeting will help as we move forward. So taking the information and the feedback, we're not going to change this year's district development plan, but as we incorporate next year and how it fits our three strategic objectives from 2010, and also taking into account what we have from the 2007 document, and making sure we're guiding in the right direction and make sure the path we're going is the right path.
All right, thank you.
The the things that the committee felt were most important. When you look at this year's district development plan, I do have a copy where I did cite all the long-range plan initiatives and the page numbers. So if you'd like a copy of that, I can give it to you after the meeting.
Any further board comment or question? Yes, Mrs. Weber.
May we have a current list of the membership again,
Yes, I can
please?
give you a copy of that.
And any backup material that you have delivered to us, I'd really like to have a copy of that.
Okay.
Anything further, board members? Is there any community comment? Thank you very much for the update, Mrs. Wainscott. I was at the meeting, as you know, and it was very helpful. And I hope that we continue to have those and report back to the board as the long-range plan continues its life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have anything else, Dr. Earl?
I do not.
All right, then we have one last opportunity for public comment on non-agenda items. Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Ertl, would you call the roll?
Mr. Jaros?
Yes.
Mr. Croner?
Yes.
Mrs. Muehlfeld?
Yes.
Mrs. Randall?
Yes.
Mrs. Weber?
Yes.
Mrs. Fee?
Yes. We stand adjourned. Thank you.
That's a record. That's a record, Ann.